Hey there. Welcome back to the Peach Teach English podcast. I'm your host, Frankie Mesmer, and today we're diving into something that's really important to me, and that's how to be a great conversationalist. Whether you're talking to someone at work, chatting with friends, or meeting someone new, good conversation skills are key. And the best part is after this episode, you'll be able to start using these tips today. So let's jump right in. Now, you might be wondering, why is it so important to be good at conversation? Well, great conversation skills will help you feel more confident when speaking English, but it goes beyond that. Being able to keep a conversation flowing is also a skill that you need to have in your native language. And being able to maintain good conversations will help you build stronger relationships, both personally and professionally. People remember how you made them feel during a conversation. And when you show interest in them and keep the energy going, they'll enjoy spending time with you and want to talk to you more. And you'll be more likely to connect on a deeper level. So the next time you have the chance to strike up a conversation, challenge yourself to keep it going. And you can use these tips that I'm about to share with you to help. So, tip number 1 on how to be a great conversationalist. Be genuinely interested in the other person. Have you ever tried to start a conversation with someone and they just didn't care? Have you ever been that person? Well, that's the first step for a failing conversation. It is key to care about what the other person has to say, and it's important that they care about what you have to say. If neither party or if one person is uninterested in this conversation, it's going to be very difficult to have a good chat. So ask questions, show curiosity in that person's life. Let them know you care and that you're listening and that you're enjoying this interaction. When you're truly interested, the conversation becomes a lot more enjoyable for you and the person that you're talking to. Tip number 2, don't give short answers. One thing that kills a conversation quickly is giving short one-word answers. For example, if someone asks, "How are you?" and you say, "Fine, good," the conversation can stop there. Instead, try to give a little more detail. Maybe say, "I'm doing well. I just started a new book, and it's really interesting." This opens the conversation for the other person to maybe ask you about this book or share about a book they're reading. Tip number 3, ask WH questions. These are questions that start with who, what, where, when, why, and how. We call these open-ended questions. And they lead to more detailed answers and can keep the conversation going. So if you ask a yes or no question, "Did you like the movie?" the person might just respond, "Yeah, it was cool." But if you ask, "What did you think about the movie?" this encourages them to give a more personalized answer in details that will keep the conversation going. Tip number 4, find common ground. This means find something that you have in common. Conversations get easier when you talk about something that both parties are interested in and enjoy. So try to find a topic that you both like. Maybe it's travel, sports, hobbies, a shared goal. For example, one of my favorite go-to questions is, "What are you into right now?" It opens up a lot of possibilities, and I'm putting the ball in the other person's court to choose the topic that they like. And hopefully, I have that in common with them. Also, tip number 5, be an active listener. It's important to listen as much as you talk. Being a good conversationalist requires you to engage in what the other person is saying. You can nod your head up and down, give small responses like, "Oh, really? That's interesting." This lets the other person know that you're listening and encourages them to continue to share their story. Tip number 6, balance speaking and listening. Have you ever engaged in a conversation with someone that goes on and on and on talking about themselves, and you really never get a chance to pitch in and share? This is not a very good conversation, right? And you can get bored very quickly. So don't be that person. Don't dominate the conversation. Share your stories, but also give the other person space to speak too. A good conversation feels balanced, just like a tennis match where the ball goes back and forth. And finally, tip number 7, engage with media during your free time. This one's really important. If we're living under a rock, we might not have anything to share or talk about. So try to consume media. You could watch TV shows, listen to podcasts, watch the news, pay attention to social media, read books, whatever you're interested in. But this will make sure you never run out of topics. Conversations are often built around shared experiences or interests, and the media gives you plenty of material to work with. By exposing yourself to these different topics, you'll learn new words and phrases to improve your English, but you'll also have more interesting things to share in your conversations. So the next time you need to have small talk with someone, you could say, "I watched this great show recently. I discovered this new song that I really liked. Oh, I read this awesome article yesterday." This creates instant conversation starters and helps us connect with people on a deeper level. As an English teacher, I have to be a very good conversationalist because I have hours of conversations with different students every day. I've seen a huge difference between students who are great at conversation and those who struggle. Some of my students, we can talk for hours about anything. These are the ones who have stories to share. They ask me about my life, and they give detailed answers. They don't just say, nothing special, just working a lot. They paint a picture with their words. On the other hand, the students who struggle with conversation tend to give short answers like, "I'm fine," "nothing," and the conversation stops there. But a great conversationalist knows how to keep the story going, and they're excited to share their experiences. Now, I'm going to share some empathy here. There is a difference between having a conversation in our native language and the language that we're learning, like English. But we can use some of these same skills to keep the conversation going. The difference is when it's your native language, you're not worried about forgetting the vocabulary, pronouncing the words correctly. Is my grammar correct? Am I going to understand what the other person is saying? These are all obstacles and doubts that we can have when we're trying to have a conversation in a language that we're learning. I want to encourage you not to let these fears stop you, even though it might be a little uncomfortable in the beginning. The only way to get better at conversations in English, or the language that you're learning, is to do it more. So if you're worried about forgetting the vocabulary, and maybe you do forget the vocabulary, that's okay. Try to explain the word that you're missing. Maybe your listener will be able to give you the word. If they can't, it's okay. to pull out a translator. Now, you might be able to remember that word forever after that experience. If you're worried about pronouncing something incorrectly, that's also okay. The person might be able to correct your pronunciation, and again, you can move forward pronouncing that word correctly in the future. The same goes for grammar. You will probably make some mistakes, but it's okay, and you can learn from them. Maybe you're worried the other person is going to talk to you, and you might not understand. What's important is don't pretend to understand. That's not going to help you have a good conversation. And you might answer their questions incorrectly. If you don't understand the speaker, tell them. Ask them to repeat it. Ask them what a new vocabulary word means. It's normal to be nervous about making mistakes or having misunderstandings, but don't let them hold you back. These are great opportunities for you to put your skills to the test, learn from your mistakes, and enhance your speaking and conversational skills in English. So, there you have it. Some practical tips on how to be a great conversationalist and become more comfortable having conversations in English. Let's quickly recap the key points you can start using right away. Be genuinely interested in the other person. Ask questions and show curiosity. Don't give short answers. Share more details and paint a picture with your words. Ask WH questions, not yes or no questions, so you keep the conversation flowing. Find common ground by discussing shared interests or experiences. Be an active listener. Respond to what the other person says to show you're engaged. Balance speaking and listening so it feels like a real exchange. Engage with media. Consume content regularly so that you have something to talk about. Now, here's your challenge. Next time you're in a situation where you can strike up a conversation with someone new, do it. Challenge yourself to keep the conversation going. Ask questions, share your thoughts, and don't be afraid to dive into details. And don't forget to have some go-to topics or questions in your back pocket. Some of my favorite conversation starters are, what are you into right now? What are your goals at the moment? Having these ready can make conversations flow much more easily. Remember, you can also practice these skills with me, an English teacher. I'm dedicated to creating a safe space for you where you feel comfortable speaking English and not afraid to make mistakes. I will correct your grammar, your pronunciation, your word choice, and sentence structure mistakes, as well as help you grow your vocabulary. This is a great way to become more comfortable and confident as an English speaker. Thanks for tuning in today. If you found these tips helpful, don't forget to subscribe and share this episode with your friends. Until next time, happy chatting.